We are in that introductory discussion on the subject of theology. And last week we discussed the introductory discussion that is generally had in the books of theology, and that is, why do we even study religion? And we gave three reasons. One, the love to be informed, a sense of thankfulness, and the study of that which is to our benefit or harm. Of course, all of these reasons of being prompted to study into religion requires a person to overcome the natural laziness and apathy that human beings have, the sense of comfort in what they've been doing for so long. But when a human being gets past that laziness and apathy, then they can re-strengthen their faith into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today we enter into the subject of Tawheed now. And we start with the basic question, and it's a question that honestly each and every one of us needs to ask ourselves as practicing Muslims, and that is, how can we prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the first and most basic and fundamental question that each and every one of us should be asking and should be able to prove in our own minds, not to debate others, but just so that when shaitan begins to whisper doubts into our ears, we can combat those doubts with concrete proofs as to why we believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Scholars, they give the example of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to learning about a fruit or fire. Sometimes they also give. And they say that we can learn about something. Let's take the example of a fruit, for example. I, for example, may not know about the existence of a certain type of fruit, but you in your country or wherever you visited experienced a type of fruit that was very delicious. And so you describe that fruit to me. And you describe its texture, you describe its color, you try your best to describe its taste. And now I have in my mind accepted that there is a certain type of fruit that exists that I have never seen before. This is the intellectually, where I can say yes, that this fruit exists. And of course, because I trust you, I don't have any reason to doubt you. And so intellectually, I have some proof that this type of fruit exists. And then the next day, you send me links from Google and pictures of the fruit and you holding the fruit. Now I have deeper proof, where I have seen it now. I can see what it looks like, I can see the shape of it. And so it's not something that's only a picture in my mind, but now my eyes have experienced and I have seen this. This is the second level of proof, where I can physically have some tangible evidence regarding its existence. And then the third type of fruit is where you actually present that fruit to me. And I slice that fruit and I eat that fruit, and now I have zero doubt about the existence of that fruit because I have experienced that fruit. Our belief in Allah Azza wa Jal falls in their similar steps. The first is that I have intellectual proof about the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In my mind, I can deduce why there has to be a creator, and this proof stands firm in me. And then the second level of proof is when I look at the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. I look at the organization that we see. I look at the beauty that we see. And all of these strengthen my belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the third level of proof is where I experience God in my heart. This is the proof of fitrah. That when my fitrah, that which has been pre-programmed by Allah Azza wa Jal in a state of potentiality, not actuality, I have to work towards actualizing it. But when I can actualize that fitrah proof, that fitrah, the proof in my heart, and when all of these three gel together, I rise in iman faster than I would if I only had one or two of these proofs. And so these are generally the three ways which we can deduce or prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will break each one down in detail to try to make sure that we are going step by step in this journey. We start with the first proof. And this is the intellectual proof. And in philosophy, this is known as the simplest philosophical proof. The problem with this proof is it's wordy. So you all have to bear with me to the best of my limited ability, to be quite honest. And this is the proof of the necessary existent. A proof of what's known as wajib al-wujud. That there has to be a wujud, has to be an existent whose existence is wajib. It's necessary. And to explain this, it'll take us a few weeks, but we will go step by step together. In English grammar, Yeah? A sentence has two important or fundamental parts. There is the subject and then there is the predicate. The subject is the thing you are describing, or the thing that is you are describing. The predicate are the words or the description you use to describe the subject. Yeah? So for example, we say the sun is shining. Yeah? The sun is the subject. The predicate is that the sun is currently shining. So we are describing the subject. We are describing what's happening to that subject. The establishment or the application of the predicate onto a subject can only have one of three states. Yeah? Either it is impossible. Yeah? So for example, the number 3 is greater than the number 4. It never happens. Yeah? It is something that is impossible. And so that's one possibility of describing the predicate onto the subject. It is an impossible thing. It never happens. That's one. The second is that it's possible. Yeah, it's mumkin. So the first one is mumtani', it's impossible. The second one is mumkin. It's possible. So for example, we may say the sun is above my head. Yeah, possible. Twice a day or once a day, the sun will be above my head. And so that predicate onto the subject is something that's not impossible, but it's not necessary for that sun to be over my head every single moment of existence. And so it's possible that that sun is above my head. The third is that it is necessary. Yeah? It is wajib. And so for example, the number 2 is half of 4. Always. Yeah? And so these are the three possible applications of the predicate onto the subject. In philosophy, when we look at the concept of existence, we don't need to spend time talking about the concept of that which is impossible to exist. Because the list of things which are impossible to exist are infinite. Yeah, we can all come up with 100 different things which are impossible. And so to spend time talking about something which is impossible is pointless when it comes to existence. Hence, one of these three possibilities is something we don't investigate or spend time in. And so now we are only left with two possibilities. Right? I know I need a graph, huh? Yeah, but bear with me, inshallah. I know you're picking it up, right? So we are only left with then two possibilities when it comes to the predicate's application or into the subject, or when it comes to the concept of existence. We only have that which is a necessary existence or possible, because we said we don't spend time talking about that which is impossible, right? And so we only are left with then two. It's either necessary for it to be in existence, or it is possible for it to be in existence. Let's define what we mean by a necessary existence and what we mean by a possible existence. Sometimes it's easier to understand it in Arabic. It's wajib al-wujud or mumkin al-wujud. Yeah? So something is either wajib al-wujud or something is mumkin al-wujud. I think even in Urdu that works for us. Yeah? And so a wajib al-wujud, a necessary existent, is an existence which exists on itself and does not depend on any other existence to bring it into existence. Yeah? It is something that is standalone. It is something that always exists. Because any time you can have a start date to something, it means prior to that start date, it didn't exist. Right? But a necessary existence, a wajib al-wujud, is an existence that is not dependent on anything else to bring its existence. Therefore, it has always existed. Yeah? And so that is the definition of a necessary existence. We're not talking about God yet. Yeah? We're talking way before trying to prove the existence of God. We're just looking at language at this particular moment, right? So again, a necessary existence is something that is independent, has no start, has no end, and does not require anyone else or anything else to continue or start its existence. A possible existence, a mumkin al-wujud, is an existence which does not exist on its own but depends on another existence to bring it into existence. Example is what? You and I. We are possible existences because before our birth date we did not exist, and we required our parents to come together for our existence to take place, and therefore our existence has a start date. We were dependent on our parents coming together, and therefore our existence is considered possible. Similar to this podium, for example. Prior to its construction, it was different parts. It took someone to bring it together, cut it in the right size, put it all together, and therefore prior to the way it is right now, it was not in existence, and therefore it was a possible existence because it had a start date, isn't it? And it was dependent upon someone else to come into existence. If we have understood those definitions, then we are left with three essential possibilities. The first possibility is that every existent is a necessary existent. Yeah? The second possibility is that every existent is a possible existence. So every existence, number one, is wajib al-wujud. Second, every existence is mumkin al-wujud. Or the third possibility is where some existences are necessary and some existences are possible. These are the only three possibilities that we have. This is where we'll park for today. Yeah? That we have come to this point now where we have defined these concepts and we have said that there are only three possibilities, and then inshallah, if Allah gives us life next week, we will break down each one of these possibilities to conclude with the one that is correct and then develop even further from that. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.